Welcome back to One Winning Pod. We're trying something new this week, using a new piece of software and like a soundboard, and the intro is actually happening as I say these words. Very odd, very strange. Welcome back. We got a 28-3 victory in Brownstown, the dog pound to talk about, where the Ravens, we had a whole lot of dogs on the field, and that was a lot of fun. And man, can't wait to talk about this game. Definitely a get-right game after that very disappointing, rainy game in Baltimore.
Yeah, this was a great win. It's funny. In some ways, I feel like the results that we got over these past 2 weeks are kind of in reverse of what we were expecting going in. I feel like the victory that we had against the Browns is basically what we were expecting against the Colts, right? We're expecting that offense to not be able to do anything against our defense, and it ended up being the opposite, right? Very sloppy game with the Colts, and we were expecting this game to be really close. We were talking about it in the preview episode. I can't remember if any of us had the Ravens scoring more than 20 points in our score predictions, but yeah, I mean, of course, when we did our predictions, we didn't know that Watson wasn't going to be playing. That was breaking information just a couple hours before kickoff, but still, I think obviously that made the job for the defense a lot easier, but I think you got to give a lot of credit to this offense for going in and taking on a very confident defense in their stadium, who was pumped for this game and putting up 4 touchdowns. Wonderful, excellent bounce back performance from an offense that really had a lot of fans frustrated against the Colts. So that was excellent to see them bounce back from that on the road against a divisional foe, no less.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't even a game where, I think the offense kind of put up their full potential. I mean, the Browns defense, I think, did a great job, especially in the first half, first quarter in particular, of, really limiting Lamar's ability to make plays, particularly in the passing game. I feel like it was the run game that kind of, drove a lot of the offense early. It wasn't until that, really they kept the Browns defense on the field for so long that, guys were just having trouble kind of catching their breath, and, it wore down as the game went on. Especially I felt like, when Myles Garrett, had whatever his tweak was in the second half, like, at that point we're like, okay, all right, now, like, things are okay. But even while he's on the field, he was having his way with McCary. McCary was having some trouble, and I mean, rightfully so. Like, a lot of people have trouble with, Myles Garrett, but yeah, it was well fought. I don't think, I think not what we expected, but proud of the guys for coming out with a win, especially in an away game too. I mean, just to have, 2 divisional away wins already in the first 4 games, another one coming up next week. Like, if the Ravens can go 3-0 in that stretch, I mean, that's incredible. Great start.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. It's like we sacrificed the Colts game to get this dub. Kind of like you're saying, like in reverse. I'm much happier with this scenario. If I knew I had to lose a game, we had to go 3-1. This is the best outcome for the Ravens, and being able to have the confidence that we can go on the road and beat these teams. That's really, that's huge. It's so important to be able to play just as well on the road, I think, as at home. And in a way, maybe the Ravens are even better on the road. I think they like being the spoiler. I think they like, that adversity in a way. And it was a great game. And I think if we start off, we should almost talk about the defense first, because we know they stirred the pot. Roquan apparently, put some bulletin board material when he said, they're trying to go there and beat them in front of their family. And it became this huge controversy. I didn't even see it coming. That's just how Roquan talks. He's just the way he plays. But they delivered, man. Even though it was a rookie quarterback, a little asterisk or whatever next to it. Not only did they make him look like a rookie, but like they were hunting no matter what. There was the linemen were any different, right? But we were getting after the quarterback and making life difficult. The corners were all over people. So I definitely think the Ravens defense held up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, there just seems to be a thing with the Browns this year and blowing comments out of proportions. What was it in week 1? I think Jamar Chase called them the elves or whatever. He said, like, nah, they're the elves to me. And the Browns like blew that up into Houston's like, oh, who knows why that was a thing. I mean, whatever. That's their mascot. That's the thing on the middle of the field. Own it. Like, what the hell? But anyway, Yeah, I mean, this defense, look, I think they would have done the same thing if Watson was in there. It's real a shame that Watson wasn't able to play, because I think this defense was ready for him, ready for what the Browns are going to do. And it would have been great to have been able to have that performance against their starting quarterback, a guy who, jury's still out if he's, how good he is, but he was starting to come into form. It would have been really nice to have been able to put some damage in that and, to kind of get them back off the track there. But, it is what it is, and all you can do is play against the guys who are in front of you. And so I think the defense understood the assignment. Here's a guy, mid-round pick, who wasn't expected to be starting at this point in his NFL career. He likely wasn't going to be ready. He showed he wasn't ready. Browns, interestingly, I think, had a pretty aggressive game plan. He was throwing a lot of deep balls in that game. They did not put the training wheels on him. And the defense was ready, and we got a lot of picks, a lot of sacks. It was a really inspired performance by the defense. A lot of great highlights in that game, and some career-first interceptions, too, for some guys, which I'm sure we'll get to later as well.
Yeah, well, it took 59 minutes and 40-some seconds, but, one of the guys that got those picks, your bold prediction, Kyle Hamilton, that was a nice pick in the end zone to kind of seal the game. The Hayes in the barn, But yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of good performances, like all up and down the defense too, man. I mean, defensive line, I think, just getting after. They ended up getting 2 sacks. I think Broderick and Matabike ended up getting sacks. They were disruptive, and obviously, I think the best thing for them too is just kind of taking up blockers to let the linebackers behind them just roam free. Roquan, like you said, Alec, just incredible game. Patrick Queen again as well. I think had 3 tackles for loss and another sack as well. So he's playing incredible right now. And even on the back end, man, I thought this was a great game. I mean, again, Marlowe didn't play this game. We'll have to see about this week as far as coming back with the Steelers. It's still up in the air at this point. But yeah, I mean, Brandon Stevens got involved. Darby and Rock, they got involved. Geno Stone and Kyle with their interceptions. Arthur Millette as well. I thought, he was a guy I kind of want to talk about individually, but this is really the first significant game action we've kind of seen from him since he's been a Raven, and I thought he played incredible. I mean, he was this really solid tackler. I think there were a couple of plays he really was able to wrap up pretty well and limit, the receivers from going anywhere else. He had the tip ball that ended up going into Brandon Stevens' hands, and yeah, I mean, just looked pretty great. I mean, I've looked out and I'm like, wow, this is our slot corner. No wonder why, we signed this guy. He looked pretty incredible. So, all up and down, I think guys were doing what they had to do, and they were playing at a high level. So it's great to see.
It was just a couple of days ago, maybe last week, I think, I tweeted at Zarebek being like, what's going on with Millette? He's practicing, right? I was surprised that he wasn't a part of the team and active and all that good stuff. And then because of the injury to Worley, they cycled Hamilton back to safety, and they had to bring in a new slot corner. So then we got to see 44 snaps of Millette. And like you said, I think he made a really good first impression. Obviously, he played a little bit last week, but that was brief when Geno Stone went down for 2 snaps. He came out there, I think, for 3 snaps. But this game, he had the deflection that went into the hands of Stevens for his first pick and the first pick of the game. And I just thought he played really well. I was really quite pleased with the outcome of Millette, a guy that was a veteran, and I was excited to see that we picked up. But then the fan base was like, "Oh, he's been hurt. We haven't heard anything from him. He's trash. He's garbage." Slot corner has not been resolved, and then they kept him on the roster, and there was some surprise there. And now it's all starting to kind of make sense, right? It looks like he can be a real contributor. And I have to say, between him, Darby, and Rock, I think they've all exceeded expectations almost. Maybe not so much for Rock, but almost. I think in the opportunities he has had, they've been good. And this cornerback room that was a huge question mark with Stevens leading the way with Humphrey down has actually been really solid. And I'm excited to watch more of Stevens. I think he's really developed in year 3, and this guy's playing super well. I'm super excited and stoked.
Definitely. All these guys, these vets they brought in, they're playing fast. They're playing hard. Even Brandon Stevens, who's obviously not new to the team this year, he's been playing with a lot of aggression this year. These guys are just going, and they're going after receivers. They're going for pass breakups. Look, I know after week 1 we said, all right, well, they're playing the Texans, and they look really good, but Texans rookie quarterback, that team's not expected to be good. We're looking back. It's only 3 weeks later, but that already looks like that performance looks way better of seeing what the Texans have done since then. I mean, I don't even care that was their first game. Literally, game 2, they're out there putting points up against the Colts, and what we saw them do against Jacksonville and against Pittsburgh the past 2 weeks. Like, this group has not had a soft schedule that they've gone against as far as receiving cores and quarterbacks they're going against. And they've done really well, like you said. Now short, we're talking about this group going up, like, say, in the playoffs against Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, those type of offenses. We'll see. But also, there's a lot of secondaries that will struggle in that situation, and that's when you need the offense to step up and go point for point, generally, in that case. And who says they can't do it? Like you said, they have exceeded expectations. They're playing hungry. They're playing confident. Look, they've proved us wrong so far, and I see no reason why they haven't earned the right to have our trust as a fan base. This has been better than expected, and they're keeping the ship right, waiting for Marlon to come back. And when Marlon does come back, that's going to take some pressure off those guys, and I think we're going to see this unit get even better. It's really going to be... Look, there's a lot of optimism here, I think, which, like you're saying, is incredible to be saying when we're going into the season and looking at this group as potentially an Achilles heel on this defense.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested now, just kind of knowing the corners that we have. Obviously it's just one game, and yeah, it's against a backup quarterback. But when Marlon does come back, I'm kind of curious at this point where the Ravens might put him. I feel like there was some talk about maybe have him in slot corner, kind of keep Darby and Stevens more on the outside, because obviously I think that they perform there a little bit better. But I guess I could also see a world where maybe Marlon I guess basically could line up wherever, just kind of like keep him to match up against whoever is their best receiver, or wherever is like the best matchup, and it could be inside, it could be outside, it could be wherever. And then basically once he's locked in, you kind of build, whoever you need around him. Alec, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that when he gets back.
I've been thinking about it a lot. I have no idea. I'm right there with you, though. I think it's a great question that you imagine they play him out on the outside, but if you're trying to get the best players in the field, maybe you do play him on the inside. And then you have, at that point, though, then you evict Hamilton from that spot. I mean, not that you can't swap your DBs, but I don't know. It is a really interesting question that I don't know the answer to. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, maybe they move Stevens to the slot, but I don't think they would. That's not my first choice. So I'm super curious myself. I think it's a great question, and maybe we'll find out as early as this week against the Steelers. It sounds like there's a chance that he'll play, but we'll see. I don't know. Otherwise, it's just more IG lives. That's the only thing for certain. IG lives.
Oh man, what a character! Marlon might be a top 10 all-time character in a Baltimore sports, which is crazy if you think about all the characters we've had through the years. Obviously Tony Siragusa, Qadri Ismail, even going to Orioles. I don't know if anyone watched the memorial they had today at Camden Yards for passing Brooks Robinson, but when Boog Powell got up there, he had a couple jokes if you go back and listen to that. But yeah, I mean, I have actually not been thinking about the answer to this question too hard, simply because unfortunately the way this year has gone, it's hard to say, because it's just like, well, when Marlon comes back, who's going to be here? We have injuries every week. So it's like, I think unfortunately that's the number one thing you got to look at first, and it's just be like, well, who else is out there, and how can Marlon best help the jobs of everyone there? But look, like you're saying, hopefully he's back here against Pittsburgh. That'll be a great game for him to get back at divisional on the road with historically our arch rival. I don't know if they're our arch rival currently. I think that position was Cincinnati's, but for this year, there might be an opening. So, yeah, I mean, what we do know for a fact is that the best version of this defense has Marlon Humphrey out there. He had an incredible season last year, bouncing back from a little bit of a struggling 2021. Obviously, with the injuries that were there, he had to do more than really we wanted him to do. Had to play out of position a bit. So, yeah, I mean, when he's back, it's going to be good. Hopefully, if he's ready to go. So.
Well, let's talk about another position group that's been having a lot of turnover lately, and that's the outside linebackers. Luckily, so far, Roquan and PQ have been played, I think, every single snap, almost, actually. They took them out in this game. Too much domination. But, effectively every snap, every meaningful snap. And we saw Kyle Van Noy for the first time. He got signed since the last time we recorded. And the guy, in the notes, dog, able to come in there, play, I think 30% of the snaps after being around for only a couple of days. Pretty impressive. Harbaugh mentioned his presser on Monday that, he's impressed with the coaching staff's ability to kind of bring these players up to speed so quickly, and it's a testament to them and the scheme. And, of course, Clowney had a huge game, which, again, in the IG Live, they made fun of him, almost Clowney, which we were messaging in the chat, like, man, this guy is so close to making so many plays. But hey, they're still plays. They really are. They still disrupt the play. It makes them have to go off schedule. And I also was really impressed with Tavius Robinson. The guy's been out. He had the number one amount of snaps for an outside linebacker. So this group looking totally different with Owe and Ojabo both banged up, and heard today that Ojabo might be a season ender, which is really unfortunate. Yet again, the Ravens on the fly are remaking this group. Second year in a row.
Yeah. Lots to unpack there. I mean, the first thing I was just going to go back to is, man, like you said, like Clowney is playing incredible almost. It's just, yeah, man. It's just like, he's so disruptive. I feel like he's just like so powerful and good with his hands, but like just goes high sometimes. If he's able to go lower on some of those, sacks or tackles, I mean, he would be incredibly disruptive. But I mean, you're right. Like, some of those plays, I think, still ended up a positive play for the Ravens. Well, a negative play for the offense, positive play for the Ravens. But in other cases, that's the time the quarterback needs to be able to make those plays. So eventually, getting further down the year, you want to see him make more of those plays. But it's definitely off to a good start, especially, like you said, just considering the position group right now, pretty weak. Definitely needs some help. I'm definitely curious, though, for Tavius Robinson, just kind of like seeing his growth from like a body type. I mean, he's a big dude. I mean, I think, he really just needs more technique. I feel like, his run setting, I feel like it's gotten better, maybe this week. Still, obviously, not where it needs to be. He's still learning, but that's okay. But I mean, the biggest thing for him that I really love to see is just, I mean, he's pretty relentless. Even if he's not the first person to be able to get a tackle, I mean, he's going to go up there and he's going to wrap up and he's going to try to get the guy down. I feel like there's a play or two that I noticed that from him, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I like to see that rookie. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, Owe, his health is going to be big, especially just from like the pass rush perspective. Ojabo, we'll still see. Yeah, man, I feel like, I hate to say it, man, but like, we'll have to see with his career. He's still got 2 years left on his contract. But being a second round pick, losing his first year, almost all of his first year, and if he's out again this year, like, I don't really want to say comparisons here, but just like, from like a pick perspective, like, man.
Yeah, incredibly terrible luck for Ojabo. It's just been a shame to see some of these young players that the Ravens have drafted in the past couple of seasons struggle so much with injuries going forward. But I mean, prayers up to Ojabo. Hopefully, he'll be able to find some way to get his career on track. Coming back from this injury, it's going to be tough, but we're going to see what he's made of, right? And unfortunately, some of it'll be luck, some of it's going to be out of his control. But hopefully, what he can control, he can just channel that to be able to make the most out of his NFL career. So definitely, hoping for the best for Ojabo. But yeah, I'm glad we brought up Tavius Robinson, because I will say I haven't gotten a chance in my rewatch yet to watch him as much as I wanted to. But I will say, watching the game, he looks like a very different player from what he did in the preseason. He looks a lot more confident out there. I think he's simplifying things for himself there. He's around the ball a lot more. Not a guy out there who you're looking at and you're saying like, oh, he's about to dominate, but he's looking very solid, looking like a guy who we can plug in and we can depend on, to do his job. And like you guys are saying, he's got a high motor. Eventually, I think as he gets more comfortable, we might see him make some splash plays if he can really channel that energy into a finer technique as he gets more conditioned, to the NFL game. I'm excited about the growth that we're seeing from this guy. I don't know what his ceiling is, but you love to see that much improvement just this short into an NFL career, especially from a guy whose draft prowess was that he was raw and that's what he looked like in the preseason. We're seeing improvement already, and it's unfortunate that his number has to be called at this point. I mean, we were talking in the preseason, this guy might get completely redshirted his rookie year, and look, he's playing significant snaps already in week 4. So, good production here from Tavius Robinson. Hopefully it keeps up because we saw some good things on Sunday.
Tavius could very well be another Stevens, and he's kind of on a better trajectory already, but the guy, similar story almost, where he was playing not that position for a while, not playing football, has a crazy RAS score, just toolsy, and as they start to put things together, they become more and more of a player. And like you said, we didn't expect to see nearly as much of him at this point, but here we are, and he's getting trial by fire. Which I think actually also happened to Stevens.
Right.
So, because of course it's the Ravens the last 4 years. Everyone's been hurt. But yeah, I'm excited. The job thing though is killer. And I don't even know what to say at this point. I hope that similar to Williams, he's able to make a decision that is good for his health. I mean, I don't know if it's good for his health, but maybe he's able to play in some capacity. There's some sort of other path. It sounds like basically whenever these guys get surgery, that's when they're donezo. But if they try to heal naturally, maybe they can play sooner. I don't know, which is kind of counterintuitive. Sometimes surgery is the faster route. But anyways, I guess we'll see. I also just kind of enamored with the defensive line play. Something I wanted to keep an eye on this game because I felt as though it was the edge setting last game too, but also just I felt like we weren't getting the push we needed to stop these run plays ahead of time. I know that it really was just a couple explosive runs, but it just seemed like we were getting to the second level a little too often. And I think the defensive line looked a little bit better this game, but not even that much better. I did think it kind of came down to the second level a decent amount in the run defense, and just kind of want to see that shirt up. But again, their offensive line is really good. It's one of the best units, so maybe it's not the worst performance in the world.
Yeah, and even Jerome Ford. I mean, obviously, he's a young guy, and I don't think anybody in Cleveland expected him to get significant snaps over Chubb after his injury, or before his injury rather. But I mean, he's a really explosive back. So I mean, I think just even from this year, I feel like we're going to see a lot more of him. Not just as Ravens fans, but just NFL fans. I feel like he's got a lot of tools, I think, to be a really good running back. So, yeah, you'd want to see a little bit more of that. But, I mean, that is a big portion of their offense is really leaning on that run game. Even when Watson's playing well, I think they rely on that a lot, just kind of as a core piece of their offense.
Well, and I mean, unfortunately, when you're looking at Nick Chubb and his career, I think Ford's getting a real look to be the next main running back in that offense. 5th round pick versus I think Chubb was a 2nd, but I mean, still completely up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen with Chubb. Hopefully for him, he's able to come back. But yeah, I think the Browns are seriously looking at who might be their next running back, and Ford's going to get an audition. So, like you're saying, we might be seeing him in many matchups to come, and this was an excellent one for the defense. We won round 1, really bottled him up. There were a couple big runs he had, but I think, all of them were called back on penalty, holding on their end. That was, at the very beginning of the game, too. I think the first play the Browns did, Ford had a big run and was called back. So, yeah, I mean, the run defense was great today, and it wasn't just the defensive line. They did great, but I mean, what a game for the duo of Roquan and Queen today. I think they really shined in the pass defense, really, too. I mean, run defense was great as well, but pass rush. Queen had an excellent blitz to sack DTR. And whenever the Browns tried to pass down the middle of the field, either Queen or Roquan was around the ball. I mean, Roquan had a couple pass deflections, almost had a pick early on in the game. This guy, Roquan Smith, man, it's incredible that we were able to trade for him. I mean, is it really? I mean, I guess it's the Bears. Who knows what the Bears are doing? But still, the fact that we were able to pull it off and no one else did, that they were, man, this guy has come in and he's just set the tones ever since he's been here. I really feel like this defense has more a swagger that I don't want to say they didn't have a swagger before he came here, but the defense did kind of feel like it was searching a little bit for an identity. And ever since Smith's here, I think he's really been helping Queen. I think that is rubbing up on the younger players too. It's just been a whole culture shift with this defense, and part of it's the switch to McDonald's defense, but I think you got to look at Roquan as well as someone who's been able to set this tone and this culture for this defense, and it's aggressive, it's fast. Look, through 4 games this season, I know that the game against Indianapolis was a bit of a mess up, but I mean, defense still played well enough to win in that game too. Through the first 4 games, this defense, they're playing really, really well.
Yeah, I feel like everybody in Baltimore is calling that the Ray Lewis effect. It's weird how it works, man. I feel like for the last couple of years, we talked a little bit about just like how the Ravens are kind of just getting inside linebacker play out of whoever, a cave out of box of scraps kind of thing. And then we were kind of like, well, we can't put draft capital in there, and then we drafted Queen. They were like, yeah, we told you. Everybody's kind of saying that, but it's just weird. I feel like it's weird how it works. And you're just like, we made the Roquan trade, and there were still skeptics of like, why are you doing that? You can't pay Roquan. He's going to cost too much money. And even like, even now having done that, I mean, there's something about it. It's just like getting a player like that who not only is so good at what he does, but for some reason, and it may not even be entirely attributable to him, but for some reason, it seems like everyone around him is also playing better. I mean, just between him and Queen, it's like now you have a position group that was been a weakness over the past 4 or 5 years, and it's just so good now. You're just like not even questioning like, I'd love to trade a linebacker for another corner or a defensive lineman or something. You don't even question it. They're just playing so well right now, and it's just I think it's cool. I mean, it's a little admirable. I think just for the Ravens organization. I mean, for the past couple years, I think they've always zigged when the NFL is zagging, right? Everybody wants to go toward having the pass game and all these receivers, and the Ravens are like, nah, we're going to build a historic run game. And they're doing the same thing with inside linebackers now. And, early returns are really, really good.
So here's the thing. I think, Chris, you nailed it right there at the end. I think what the Ravens have done the last couple of years, not just are they zigging when everyone else is zagging, they're making everyone have to game plan differently. Most teams will play cover 2, but most teams don't have 2 linebackers like this that actually like make it really hard to, try to dink and dunk. I mean, Roquan had almost 3 picks. I don't even care if it's a rookie guy. He was just on fire. He was all around the ball and just great in coverage. PQ, man, that shed that he had, you guys have been a lot more physical this year. I don't know if he added some muscle or what, but I feel as though he's just getting after people and getting off blocks better than ever. And with that speed of his, it's killer. So you got these guys, and I'm telling you, man, these offenses aren't used to it. They're used to seeing coverage, but they're not used to these kind of linebackers that are cleaning up all around them or actually know what they're doing in coverage. And it's going to lead to mistakes, and it's going to lead to some big plays for the Ravens defense. And it's undeniable that he's the leader, Roquan, of this team. I know like Lamar's been a little bit more vocal, but that's just not really who he is. He's not like, I don't know, a real rowdy guy. He's apparently kind of quiet and reserved. Roquan's the opposite. Total dog. Like, get that guy in front of a microphone. He's going to say something funny. He's doing more appearances and stuff, in social media and stuff. I mean, the guy is just, I don't know. And I think because he's a linebacker, he is kind of like almost the quarterback of the defense. Marlowe's a character, but Marlowe's like only targeted a couple plays a game. He's not always around the ball. Whereas, Roquan, green dot, communicator, point everything out. I mean, I just feel like it's different. So when you have that like gravity from an inside linebacker, man, like it's so cool. I'm so here for it. It's nostalgic, but it's also just good football. And I love that he's going to be here for 5 years. I kind of regret not getting his jersey, even though I think 0 is kind of dumb. Like it's growing on me, but like I just think it should be not a band number.
Right. It's funny you mentioned he's like rowdy. He's not even rowdy too. It's just like, I mean, I guess you can maybe argue like Ray at some points was like a little rowdy, but like there's an intensity there where you're like, this guy, like, I mean, he'll obviously, he'll say some things, but even in his interviews, man, like, I don't think he's ever like disrespectful or, particularly rowdy. He's just like, he's going to tell you how it is. And like, he says it with such authority, I guess. You're just like, yeah. Like, yeah, whatever you say, bro. Like, I mean, that's very comparable, I think, to Ray. And I think that's why, a lot of people I think are all about this. They're like, yeah, I want to recreate that. But I mean, he's definitely his own guy. I think that's very clear, but yeah, I mean, just, the level that those guys are playing at, it's just undeniable. It's so good right now.
Well, the defense was really helped out in this game by, the offense getting back on track. I mean, I think as we talked about the first quarter, the defense really kept the game in check for the Ravens to be able to figure out the offense, get it churning. But once the Ravens got the offense churning, then the defense was able to just, go after the quarterback and have fun. And when we're looking at the offense, the first two people we have to talk about are the guys who we know are the real engine for this offense. And when they're clicking, they're on their best games, this offense is unstoppable. And that's, of course, number 8, Lamar Jackson, and the guy who's been his favorite target for his entire career, number 89, Mark Andrews. Both of them had their best game of the season to date, in my opinion. Lamar was hyper efficient this game. He was able to run against a tough Browns defense. Mark Andrews, 5 catches on 5 targets, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. And man, that first touchdown he had, first off, Lamar's ball placement on that was incredible. Anyone saying the dude's still a running back, anyone saying he is a running back, because, I mean, he never was, but anyone who said that in 2023, first off, you were dumb back in 2020 and 2019, and for that matter, but, like, you clearly don't watch anything at all with regards to the Ravens. That was perfectly placed, and, I mean, the timing of that by Andrews and where he found that in the back of the end zone, man, those two, when they're healthy and they're in sync, they are better than every quarterback tight end tandem in this league. Then the only ones you could say could be any better would be Mahomes and Kelsey. Like, they are incredible. And man, Mark Andrews against the Browns. Where have we seen this before? I'm surprised none of us said it in our bold predictions that he was going to go off. I guess because it wasn't bold. We know it. It's the Browns. They can't cover him, man. But that was great to see. It was great to see that performance from those guys. Particularly, after last week, I was talking about the recap. I was like, the Ravens, they needed to get Mark Andrews more involved in the second half of that game, and they did it this week, and it really paid off big.
Well, Mark Andrews, he must be getting healthy because, yeah, you're right. He had his best game of the season, and in a way, I don't know, man. It felt like one of the best performances since maybe the Colts game back in 21, where he kind of just, took over, and you felt like he was just awesome. I thought his elusiveness in the open field and maybe ability to make people miss and, drag people. He did drag people last game too, or maybe it was 2 games ago, whatever it was. But it was just really powerful. And of course, the touchdowns were epic. That one high point play was just not nice, throw where only one guy can get it. Very impressive. And it was not only was Mandrews really good, but just the placement Lamar had on some of these balls. That wheel route to Gordon was nuts, just right in the breadbasket. I thought that his pass to Aguilar that wasn't a touchdown was right on the money. It's basically right where he needed to be. Great pass. I mean, he was throwing dimes, and what was it 10 for 12 in the first quarter, or first half rather. Remarkably efficient, and I just I'm really, really happy to see that development from Lamar. I think that he's starting to really get this offense. I don't think he didn't get it earlier on, for what it's worth, but it seemed to click. The 3 and outs at the beginning of the game were really frustrating, and you're like, man, are you kidding me? Are they not going to be able to get going? But luckily, it felt like once they got their stride, they never let up, and then they were up by so much and realized that offense was pretty pitiful that they were like, all right, well, we can pump the brakes a little bit. We don't need to unload the full playbook to win at this point. So I'm so excited to see how this offense develops. But even without 2 of your top wide receivers, I felt like the passing concepts were incredibly reasonable. It went back to the Lamar more efficiency game. He didn't pass that much in this game, but he did pass a decent amount, and everyone, he spread the ball around a little bit. And I just also really appreciate seeing the running back so involved in the passing game. It just gives them another out. So I'm liking a lot what I'm seeing out of this passing game, and it's, of course, all led by number 8.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, echoing kind of what you guys all said, Lamar had a fantastic game. I thought his ball placement was excellent. That Andrews touchdown, the first one, I mean, just incredible. But I think it was really just kind of pronounced too of just, it was really tough sledding early game. The Browns defense is playing really, really well. And I think, honestly, I mean, this is exactly what I want to see from a Monken offense. Like, I know everybody is so, excited for all these receivers that are playing, but honestly, like, I feel like this game kind of highlighted something for me in that, like, you have an all-pro tight end in Andrews, and I mean, this is a game where you really take advantage of him, and we really don't have as many other players that can kind of replicate what he does. I feel like the big key was just that, receivers sometimes, I mean, we have guys that, we don't have many guys who are proven at being able to get open consistently on press coverage. Like, I know Zay's shifty and he can get off guys and stuff like that, but, I know if we had Odell and he was healthy, like, yeah, he might be able to do some of that stuff. But even when everybody else is covered, like, Andrews just finds a spot. Just get him open. Like, just give him 2 seconds and he'll get it and he'll get the first down for you. I thought it was really obvious early of just like, the offense was struggling a little bit. Guys couldn't get open. They couldn't like push the ball downfield. The Browns were just stuffing up everything, making tackles really quickly. And Andrews was in blocking. And I'm just like, just let him go. Just like, let him get on a pass route. And then he did, and he like converted it into a first down. I'm like, that's what you need. Like, this is literally what you need when the defense is going to play like this. You just have to find guys who know how to get open and who are reliable to catch the football. You have an all-pro in Andrews to be able to do that. And honestly, like, moving forward, like, I know, like, obviously I'm excited for Bateman and Odell to come back and be healthy and all that stuff. But I think the best version of this Monken offense, like, you don't need all of those guys to necessarily make plays. Like, I know that we want to have, all of them, be super successful in the season. I want that too, but just for this offense to be successful, you need a receiver to be able to make those plays downfield. You need a guy who's reliable, like Andrews, to be able to make those, third downs, third and longs, and you need the running backs to play. And, I think we had a really good balance of that all day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing you can say about the performance like this is that you had, even though Andrews, I think, was the star of this game, everyone else contributed in some way. Zay, this wasn't his biggest day statistically, but he had an excellent pass, an excellent reception in the second quarter, I believe it was, or maybe it was the third, where Lamar was back in the pocket for a bit, had to scramble out of some pressure, go over to his right, and just hit Zay on a deep post, and excellent footwork to stay in bounds. I mean, he had plenty of room with the way he skitter tapped that in, but I think that was a great job by Zay, showing really veteran savvy to continue to work and get open for your quarterback while the play broke down and there's extra time. We saw Melvin Gordon, like Alec was saying, running backs getting catches out of the backfield. Gordon, a guy that we're still not sure if we're really, that confident with him out there, but still, he had a big run today. Granted, I think that was more the hole that the guards opened up for him, on that double pull rather than what Gordon did. But still, he hit the hole and he ran hard, so credit to him there. The catch was good. Gus Edwards had his first receptions since the playoff game against the Bills. Even Pat Ricard got in on the action. Pat Ricard bailed Lamar out, had like a nice 7-yard gain. He's still in this offense. And then I think the biggest thing to say about this, the biggest takeaway we can get is that Lamar had a great day. And like Alex said when we first brought this up, it could have been even bigger. Aguilar catches that touchdown. The Ravens decide to keep their foot on the gas. His numbers are going to be even bigger. So great to see this. And like we're saying, this is really good defense. And we didn't have Odell. We didn't have Bateman. Hopefully those guys can still contribute later on this year, because I think the more offensive weapons you have, the better. Even if not everyone is being used every game, the more guys you can throw at a defense and they have to guess, okay, is this Odell's week? Is this Andrew's week? Is this Bateman or Zay's week? Different matchups are going to showcase different guys, ideally, if they're all healthy. We're not there yet, but I think down the road, if we can get everyone healthy, that could really be a headache for defensive coordinators to figure out which of these guys, all of which can ball, which of these guys are going to be the focal point for the game plan that week.
Agreed. And Zay, man, he had almost every snap in this game, even when they started putting out the replacements. He only missed one snap. And I tell you, I think that first game, man, where we force fed him, defenses are paying attention. Every time we motion him, he's like our number one motion man. They're always looking at him. And they thought it was going his way when Lamar just jogged into the end zone. He didn't even have to run. Yeah, there was no one. There's a huge chasm. And I love that effect that he's having. Everyone knows to pay attention to Mark Andrews, and now everyone knows Zay is a huge threat as well. And like you said, that's not even including two guys that we know can also be huge threats. And I think they will have their day eventually in this offense. One thing I want to talk about, though, was the running backs and the offensive line. This offensive line, man, is really my number one concern. Obviously, they have really good pass rushers, so you're not that surprised that they had opportunities there. But I feel like even the guys we thought would be good, mainly Zeitler, aren't playing that well. And you're like, uh-oh, that's not good. And then, of course, we don't know when Stanley is going to be back, hopefully soon. We don't know what's going on with Moses. He might be done. So McCary might have to stick around anyways, even if Stanley comes back. And Falele, man, I know it was a tough ask, but he struggled in this game as well. I really worry about this. Obviously, we were able to overcome in this situation. It's interesting what they do to the offense when they start realizing they can't reliably block in the running game and the passing game. I think that's when we saw more of the running back screens and more of the make sure Ricard's there, as an outlet as well. You lose a lot of explosiveness when you have that problem. So I hope that we're able to resolve it. That being said, though, they had answers and they were able to keep it moving. From the running back perspective, I was really glad to see out of Hill. A huge run was taken back because of penalty, but every time he touched the ball, he was extremely explosive. He definitely seemed like he was on a pitch count. He didn't carry it much, but when he did touch the ball, I thought he looked really good, and I'm excited to see what we can do with him, Keem Mitchell, and Gus. God willing, they're all healthy at the same time. I think that could be a really good combo, keep everyone fresh, and keep us on track as an offense.
Yeah, offensive line definitely bears watching. I agree. It's been a real mixed bag these first 4 games. Outside of the game against Cincinnati, Cincinnati, that game went stellar for the entire offensive line, and then the rest of these games, I think it's been a mixed bag. What I will say, we've seen this before with Ravens teams. I think particularly, mid 2010s, there were a lot of years where early on, the offensive line looked like a bit of a mess, and then as the season went on, things really solidified, and maybe it wasn't always pretty, but the Ravens were able to get something together enough to be able to have the offense thrive down the stretch. And because of that, I have faith they'll figure it out, but I mean, injuries certainly aren't helping. Having to throw in new guys who maybe quite aren't ready for that role yet is hurting a little bit too. So we'll see. I agree that it needs to get better. I think the coaches would agree. I think the players would agree. So, this organization really prides itself on having strong offensive line play. So I think it bears watching, but I think they'll figure it out. And yeah, I mean, running backs, of course, I agree. There's potential there. there's definitely potential, but we still want to see a little more from that group.
Yeah, I feel like as far as offensive line, yeah, I feel like the biggest ceiling right now, I guess it's kind of hard to say too, just because like the receivers not being healthy, but I feel like the biggest limit is just being able to take those explosive plays downfield without, trying to get creative, like moving the pocket and stuff like that. I mean, obviously Lamar can escape the pocket and buy some more times with his legs, but I feel like that's kind of the biggest issue right now. But even then, man, like there were some really good schemed run plays. Like I'm thinking of like that one, the one run play for Lamar's first touchdown. I thought it was like an excellent scheme play, and it was just blocked really, really well. So yeah, I think there are some issues in pass protection, but I mean, even from like a run blocking perspective, like, I mean, I think that they're getting it done. I think I will say, Alec, I think to your point with just like health concerns, like, yeah, I mean, obviously Stanley still a question mark. It kind of, I feel like we said this last year. It's kind of a broken record that like, we still kind of have to talk about this, but yes, like we want him back. Moses is a little bit of a concern, but the good news that, Linderbaum did come back. I thought he looked okay. So, as long as like, whatever injuries we have for these guys, like it's only a couple of games or something, I think we can figure it out. But yeah, it's something worth monitoring moving forward. I am actually a little bit curious though. As far as I remember, I thought Cam Hayward, I believe, was hurt for the Steelers. I know I don't want to go too far ahead, but as far as next week, I think it may just be like the outside linebackers for the Steelers. I mean, maybe we really have to worry about. Maybe the interior may not be so hard to deal with, but I'm sure we'll get more to that at the Steelers episode.
For sure. Well, do we want to talk about some MVPs?
I think we do.
I feel like we have so many to choose from. It's incredible. But does anyone want to go first?
I guess I'll just jump in then. There's a really obvious one, I think, and I'm going to go with number 89 on the offense. Mark Andrews looked as healthy as he's had all year. 2 touchdowns, excellent, exactly what we needed for the offense from a receiving standpoint with Odell and Bateman out. So I'm going to give it to Andrews this week.
That's a great one. I was gonna say him if nobody else did. I feel like I helped a little bit. I finally wore my jersey. Didn't have to like. I had like a couple minutes, between baby duty, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like get ready, and it was good. Some good juju. So happy about that. I think I'll give mine to Millette, man. I don't know. I don't know if it was like the biggest play of the game or anything, but I was really impressed, man. Really solid tackler. Again, that tip ball to have Stevens be able to get that interception was fantastic, and I'm excited to watch more of him.
Tackling is so improved this year for the Ravens after years of complaining about it. I think they really have figured that one out, and mine's going to go to another guy who's good at tackling, Brandon Stevens, with one of his best games. Not only did he get his first interception, but he was number 1 in snaps outside of the 2 safeties, Stone and Hamilton. He's the only other person at 100% of snaps. Now, obviously, that was partially because of putting in the B team at the end there, and how funny that was. It basically looked like a preseason game, the last drive. But the guy just plays so well at this point, and he's probably been the biggest level jumper that this team's seen. I think. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'd stand by that. The biggest level jumper from last year to this year, that concurrent with the team. This guy has just been playing completely out of control, and I hope it continues. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the show. Thanks so much for listening. To find us on YouTube, I'm going to bring that up again because this one might have video component. So check that out if you're into that kind of thing. And then, of course, on Twitter and Threads, One Winning Pod everywhere. Very consistent. You can email us onewinningpod@gmail.com. We'll be back later in the week to talk about this Steelers game, which is super important. And hopefully we get another win, setting us up for a perfect record on the road in the division. How lovely would that be? Go Ravens.